Hey everyone, Pastor Nathan here. We're continuing our look at the book of Job today. And last time, if you may remember, we talked about how Job reminds us or connects us to Jesus in the sense that Job will help us to see Jesus and his mission and perhaps in a different and unique way. At least that's where we ended it last time. In order to see that, though, we do need to spend some time talking about the structure of Job, the function of Job, the genre of Job, and before we actually get into the text itself. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about genre, we're going to talk about purpose, we're going to talk about structure. And those things will get us to a place where we can then begin to talk about the actual text itself. And the reason why these are important is this. They'll get us to kind of the heart of Job. So the genre of Job is a historical narrative, or is almost like a dramatic retelling with a purpose. In the Bible, particularly the Hebrew Bible, this is connected to wisdom literature. So Job sits in the same places like Psalms, Proverbs. I mean, these places where it's like, okay, this is a kind of different beast than the historical stuff that you get in the Pentateuch, like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, or the Judges, or the Kings, Chronicles, or Ezra and Nehemiah. Those are separate sorts of things than this. Though this does have its anchor in history. I mean, Job is a real person, and there were things that really happened to him. This stuff happened to him. He struggled. Matter of fact, we know from like the book of Ezekiel and the book of James that they refer to Job as this real person who was this righteous man. So we have some rooting there in history, but the genre for this puts us into kind of a different category, because one of the reasons we can say that is because of how the dialogue between Job and his friends goes. It's way too structured and way too poetic in order to kind of us to sort of say, this is like a blow by blow, brute facts kind of writing. I mean, they're speaking in poetic language. It'll be like us walking around and talking in Shakespearean language to one another, or in like the language of Hamlet or something like that. We just don't do that. So the second thing we need to talk about is the goal of the book of Job. The goal of the book of Job kind of is twofold, or it's answering two questions, because that's what wisdom literature does. Wisdom literature primarily is helping people to see the world or God in a kind of different way. And so we're answering two questions. The first is, who is wise? The second is, why do people suffer? Ultimately, there is an answer, but there's a few different answers or suggestions posited in the book of Job. The friends have an answer on who is wise. They think they're wise. Job thinks he's wise. Job's wife offers wisdom. Elihu, this young man who's kind of sitting with Job and his three friends, thinks he has wisdom also. But like all wisdom in the scriptures, wisdom starts and ends with God. And Job is going to push us to find that out, is going to show that to us as it goes on, as the narrative goes on. The second question that the book is trying to answer is, why suffering? Or why do people suffer? Specifically, why does Job suffer? And the friends think they have an answer to it. Elihu thinks he has an answer to it. And all of their answers really come down to the same kind of thing, either stated one of two ways. It's either you sinned, therefore you're suffering, or if you're suffering, therefore you must have sinned. Job doesn't buy that answer, and he's looking for a different answer. God has an answer. In fact, the reader, you and I, sort of get a sneak peek at that answer in the opening couple of chapters. We know why Job is suffering. At least we know a part of why Job is suffering. We get to the end of the book and we kind of get an answer, but that's sort of the point of the book of Job. You don't necessarily get the answer you like there, but that'll help us see the suffering of Jesus in a different way. The third thing we're going to talk about today is the structure of the book of Job. That's going to help us get at the answers to those two questions. The who has wisdom, and why do people suffer questions. So the structure goes like this. There's a prologue where we as the reader sort of get to see the backstory, the behind the scenes, if you will, of what's about to happen to Job and why Job is suffering. Then you get the dialogue between Job and his wife, which really happens in the first couple of chapters. But then the meat of the book is Job's dialogue with his friends, his three friends. And there's three sort of different arcs that happen with this. Job and then his three friends, Job and then his three friends, Job and then his three friends. And this dialogue moves and transitions pretty quickly then into a monologue by this guy whose name is Elihu. And Elihu is trying to give a different perspective than Job's friends. But ultimately, even though he's young and thinks he has things figured out, his perspective is about the same as the friend's perspective, which is, Job, you're going to get judged by God for this conversation because you must have been in the wrong. And then God shows up and puts things right. At least he puts things right in a way that leaves Job with no question but to respond, at least in any healthy way, with repentance and faith. That's it. That's the structure. That's the goal. That's the genre that we're looking at, and going around those simple questions of who has wisdom and why do people suffer. So the next couple weeks, we're just going to spend some time briefly looking through that, the opening chapters of Job, and then sort of looking at the different conversations he has with his friends. Take care. We'll talk again soon.